Okay, it's 1 o'clock. Welcome to our council meeting, Monday, June the 27th. And it's good to see people here today. And we'll call this meeting to order and ask members of council if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interests. Councillor McCrae.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Through you, I have a pecuniary interest related to agenda item number 9.2, Allura Green Space lease renewal agreement. The reason is a family member owns shares in Suncor.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor McCrae. Matters, disclosure, you did that. Matters arising from closed session, yes, we actually do. We had a closed session on June the 20th at the committee of the whole, and I have a resolution that's coming out of that closed session that I'm going to read for council right now. And the resolution is this: that the council of the Township of Centre Wellington authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement for shared fire chief services between the Township of Centre Wellington and the Township of Pushlands. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor McCrae, second by Councillor Dunsmore. Any comments, questions from council on that one? All in favor? And that's carried. So just a little bit of background for folks. There will be a media release going out today about this agreement that was reached. So we're happy to be providing services of our fire chief to the Township of Pushlands. The agreement stems from recommendations that came out of a study that was done earlier in this term of council, November 2019. It was service delivery review that was conducted by KPMG. And one of the opportunities that were identified during this process was a way that we could share some functional management expertise across the county. So this opportunity came as a result of that study that was done. And a fire chief was one of those areas that there was a need in Pushlands, and we have the ability to help Pushlands out. It won't have any impact on our day-to-day operations. And it is a pilot project, so if it goes a year and a half, I believe, a year and a half pilot project. So hopefully there'll be no just positives as a result of this. But if there isn't, if there is things that we have to tweak in the arrangement or end the arrangement at the end of that year and a half, we can always do so. Either side can do that. So looking forward to that, and I know our chief and our whole team is pleased to be able to help Pushlands out in this initiative for sure. Okay, moving on to the approval and adoption of minutes. We have council minutes from May 25th meeting. I have a recommendation that the minutes of the council meeting held May 25th, 2022 be adopted as circulated. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor McCrae. All in favor? And that's carried. Item 6, presentations and announcements. The first thing that we have Matthew here from KPMG to do our audits, and I'm going to turn it over to Mark initially, or Adam. Do I start with you? Mark can take it? Okay. I'll start with Mark, and then he can bring Matthew up when required. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Linton. I think what we'll do, what we've done in the past, usually just to have Matthew come up and do his presentation, and then he'll go through his audit findings report, and then I'll come up afterwards and go through the financial statements in detail and answer any questions.
Okay, that sounds good, Mark. Welcome, Matthew.
It's got to be on. I appreciate everybody having a chance to listen to my presentation today. So we'll take a few minutes to go through. If there are questions, we can deal with them as we go, or we can wait to the end. So I want to highlight on this page some of our indicators of quality. And the most important thing here is the third item being the timing of prepared items by client. And you'll see we've given this a green mark, which means we're very happy. So I want to thank Mark and the rest of the team here for the work that they did in assisting us in getting through the audit. There were no concerns with the cooperation and preparation by the team. Oops. In terms of highlights in the financial statements, we want to say that in terms of the audit itself, we are completed. Everything that we expected to do is now ready to go. And once we complete this presentation here, we will be in a position to issue our final opinion. In terms of setting materiality for the financial statements, we set materiality at approximately $1 million, which means we could accept any uncorrected errors less than $1 million. The question I normally get with respect to this question, or with this comment, is, that's a big number, and wouldn't it make sense that the township operate and manage its affairs to a much lower level than that? And we do agree. But when we look at the total revenues of about $43 million of the township, the question then becomes, if your revenues or expenses were higher or lower by less than $1 million, would somebody looking at those financial statements come to a different conclusion as to the size and scope of your operations? And we don't think that's the case. Having said that, we do not have any uncorrected errors to report, so it's really a moot point at that stage. We provided some highlights to the financial statements. I won't go through reading this page, as I know Mark is going to do his own presentation, which will touch on it. However, I do want to mention one thing at the bottom, that the financial statements do include the consolidated results from both the business improvement areas, as well as your interest in both Centre Wellington Energy, which includes the hydro, and Centre Wellington Communications. Every audit performed in Canada has to consider the risk of fraud in the financial statements, and this is the risk that management may intentionally manipulate or adjust the accounts to achieve some sort of other purpose. We are required to have a response to that risk, and in response, we have performed a number of procedures, and we're happy to say we have no findings. The next couple of slides go through some of the major areas of focus for the audit. The first being employee future benefits. And for your understanding, this is both the post-employment sort of health and dental for early retirees, as well as sick leave, as well as WSIB liabilities. That liability is about $1.8 million. It's largely unfunded, and it does use the services of an external actuarial firm to calculate. We have communicated with that firm. We have been satisfied with the assumptions and processes taken and the amounts that were recorded. The next area of focus is payroll, being the most significant class of transactions for the township. We do look at a variety of steps in determining whether the payroll amounts are recorded properly. We look at the operating effectiveness of controls around hire and termination and make sure that the individuals are paid in accordance with their contract and other supporting documentation. We also set an expectation for payroll expense for the year based on full-time equivalents, changes to hours and headcounts, as well as increases and changes to pay. No errors or misstatements were identified. The other major area on the income statement is taxation. Obviously, that's a big focus. We do look at the MPAC amounts as well as the approved budgeted rates, and all that calculated properly. The next area of focus is debt, the long-term debt of the municipality. And so for this, we do make sure that the amounts recorded are consistent with what the lenders have. So we send them correspondence and they return back and say they agree. We also recalculate the interest expense and the other payments made during the year. Again, no issues or findings. The last area I'll talk about is tangible capital assets. Obviously, this is a very large portion of the township's activities. It's the roads, bridges, buildings, and other infrastructure that you own. We do look at a number of transactions on this for the year. We look at amounts that have been capitalized, make sure they agree to the supporting invoices and contracts. We look at expenses to make sure those haven't been properly or haven't been misapplied to operating and should be applied to capital. And then we also recalculate the amortization expense that should be recorded. As I said earlier, we did not identify any corrections that had to be made to the financial statements, both left corrected or uncorrected, which is a very good thing. And then on the next page, we disclose that we did not identify any significant deficiencies in internal control, which is also a very good thing. And just wrapping up, in terms of the overall presentation of the financial statements, everything is appropriate in accordance with the accounting standards. And at this point, we're not concerned with any changes to accounting policies. So with that, I'll pause and take any questions.
Thank you very much, Matthew. And I'll let Mark do his staff presentation, and then we'll open it up for questions for both presentations. Welcome, Mark.
All right, thank you. So in terms of the report that's attached with the financial statements, the report basically summarized the purpose of each statement in the finance statements. It highlights some of the major variances. Attachment A is the audited financial statements, which are up on screen now. Attachment B reconciles the 2021 operating fund surplus of $1,085,442 that was reported to council back in April to the $6.8 million surplus that's identified in the audited finance statements. There are huge differences between those two numbers. There's a number of adjustments that take place. So going through the statements, so will this work on here too? Okay. So the audit report, KPMG, as Matt mentioned, is proposing a clean audit report, which means there's no material issues found. So I'll just skip ahead to the actual numbers. So the consolidated statement of financial position, it's split into various sections, and one thing to keep in mind with this statement is at a fixed point in time, and that's the township's year end, which is December 31st, 2021. Various sections there's financial assets, that's what the township owned at December 31st, financial liabilities, what the township owed, and then non-financial assets, which are those assets that are held for the provision of future services. So I'll point out a couple of variances here under financial assets. So the cash and short-term investment balance, together they total about $78.5 million. That's almost a $19 million increase from the year before. Good thing, but the main reason for that is there's been a large increase in the deferred revenue balance, an increase in net debt as well, and an increase in accounts payable, and I'll explain those variances in a second. So total financial assets at December 31st were about $102.6 million. Under financial liabilities, so some variances there, accounts payable, as I mentioned before. Main reason for the $4 million increase is there was a large DC amount we received prior to Christmas. The township's required to collect the counties and the school board's DCs as well. So essentially, we had those amounts and they were payable to those organizations and were paid in January. It was a fairly significant amount. The construction holdback balances at year end were also larger than the year before, and there were also some DC credits owing at year end. In terms of deferred revenue, it increased about $12.2 million. Main reason for that is the development charge balances are up $9.8 million from the year before. There's a $1.1 million increase in the building code reserve fund and a $1.1 million increase in the gas tax balance. And the main reason for the increase in the gas tax balance, as you might recall, is the ministry, or AMO, essentially provided municipalities with additional gas tax money in 2021, which we subsequently allocated in the 2022 budget. The net long-term liabilities increase of $1.8 million. That's due to the $3.76 million of new debt that was taken out in 2021 for the operations facility land. And there were $2 million of principal that was repaid on the existing debt. So accumulated surplus, total financial liabilities at the end of the year, about $69.2 million for net financial assets of about $33.4 million. The non-financial assets, which mainly are made up of our TCAs, or tangible capital assets, total about $243 million, and the township has an accumulated surplus of about $276.8 million at December 31st. One thing to keep in mind about the accumulated surplus, it's not funds available for spending. There's $243 million of that value is tied up in TCAs. And TCAs are not available to discharge existing liabilities. They are held for the provision of future services. Next statement, the statement of operations. So this essentially is the township's income statement. So split into revenues and expenses. Also point out the budget column there. That budget column excludes amortization or depreciation of tangible capital assets. That's why under expenses, you'll see a big variation between the expense budget amounts and the actual amounts. Amortization for the year 2021 that's included in the actuals is about $9.5 million. So total revenues were $42.3 million. Total expenses about $35.6 million. The annual surplus per the financial statements is $6.8 million. And again, don't confuse that total that's on these financial statements with the operating fund surplus that was reported back in April of just over $1 million. Okay, remaining statements, consolidated statement of changes in net financial assets. So this statement provides additional information related to the non-financial assets of the township. It shows the acquisition of tangible capital assets and usage of the capital assets through amortization expense. Statement of cash flows. So this statement reports the uses and sources of cash for the year. It's split into 4 categories, being operating activities, capital activities, investing activities, and financing activities. You'll see there at the bottom, the net change in cash position during the year was an increase of about $6.3 million for a cash position at the end of the year of just shy of $53 million. And then the remainder of the statements are essentially the notes. And all the notes do is they provide additional details and disclosures on certain items in the financial statements, and also details the accounting policies used to derive the financial statements. So if there's any questions, I went through them fairly quickly.
Thanks very much, Mark. Any questions related to the audit for Matthew or for the financial statements from Mark? Members of council. Councillor Foster?
Thanks. Thank you, Mayor. My question would be for Matthew. Matthew, you mentioned, I believe you mentioned materiality threshold of $1 million. And if I'm understanding correctly, the unfunded liability for future benefits is $1.8 million. Can you help me square that up, Matthew? That, to me, would exceed the threshold. I realize it's a projected benefit obligation, but is that not a concern, I guess?
So the two concepts are different. So we set materiality, which tells us the amount of work we need to do on certain balances, right? So because the unfunded liability is 1.8 million, it's exceeding materiality. Therefore, we test it. We make sure that that number that's recorded is correct. We're not saying that it's incorrect or anything. It's just it's an unfunded liability, which is totally fine. So the concepts are separate.
Follow on, Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor. Matthew, would such a liability be of concern in an organization of our size? It's a projected benefit obligation for future expenses. It's almost $2 million. Does that cause you any concern, number one? And secondly, from what you have observed in the audit, are we following IFRS correctly and correctly stating that projected obligation in the future is correctly shown as a liability on our statements?
Yes, so it is correctly shown as a liability. The township does not follow the IFRS standards as you quoted. They follow a set of standards for governments called PSAB, but it is recorded in accordance with the standard, yes. That liability is very consistent with municipalities across Ontario, consisting of both WSIB, early retirement, health and dental, and sick leave. You know, so the larger the municipality, the larger that liability is. But I would say there's nothing out of the ordinary with what's recorded, or the volume or the value of it. It's not extremely large or extremely low that one should be concerned.
Anything else from council? Okay, I will read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington approve the December 31st, 2021 audited draft consolidated financial statements as presented by KPMG LLP Chartered Professional Accountants. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor McElwain. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much, Matthew. Thanks, Mark. Moving on to Central Wellington Hydro, one of our favorite topics of all time. And we have Wayne Dyce, the president of Central Wellington Energy, here with us today. Welcome, Wayne.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Through you, Mayor, thanks for having us here today. And greetings, councilmen, and special thanks to Carrie and Lisa for keeping me on track with the agenda. I'm hopefully going to be able to see the monitors up there, so I don't have to get my laptop out. So as far as the, actually I should mention, I have with me Michael Chapman. He's a board director of Central Wellington Hydro. He's been with us since the fall of 2020. And Heather Dowling is Central Wellington Hydro's vice president and treasurer. So as far as the agenda goes, we'll talk at a high level about the group of companies, as there have been some changes with directors and officers, and then we will get into more detail with Central Wellington Hydro updates and what we've been up to over the last year, and some of our reliability statistics and financial results, and we'll wrap it up with a summary. So you're more than welcome to interrupt me if you have any questions along the way, or we can save it to the end. So as far as the whole group of companies, nothing has changed. The township is the sole owner of the parent company, Central Wellington Energy, or the holding company, and its subsidiaries are Central Wellington Hydro, which is the regulated company, of course, and our affiliate, Central Wellington Energy Innovations, which is the unregulated company. And for Central Wellington Hydro, there haven't been any changes with the board of directors or officers. Although next year we will be replacing Tim Fryer. He'll be at the end of his third term. So we'll go out for a public posting at that point in time. That's what we did the last go round. It was the first time that we had done that. You might recall we've made some governance improvements over the last few years. We have a matrix that shows the skill sets of all of our board of directors, and we'll go to that matrix and look at what gaps we might have, and what we're going to be looking for in a potential board director next year. As far as the officers, there haven't been any change. I'm the president and corporate secretary, and as mentioned, Heather is the vice president and treasurer. There have been some changes with the Innovations Company, though, with the directors and officers. As you know, Andy retired at the end of last year, and so he resigned at that point in time. And Doug Sherwood is resigning. Actually, maybe more accurately put, Doug is retiring. So Dan has been appointed a director, and I have been appointed a director of the Innovations Company. We still have the three independent directors, being Dale Murray and Richard Seibel and Bob Cameron. We're very thankful to have them three independents sit on our board. As far as the officers of the corporation go, same goes. Doug is resigning as president, and I've been appointed president. And Andy resigned as corporate secretary, of course, and Dan has been appointed to that position. And Adam McNabb has been appointed treasurer. So I've met with Adam a couple times, and Dan. We reviewed Central Wellington Hydro's financials and the Innovations Company, and we're looking forward to working with Adam with the Innovations Company. And with Central Wellington Energy, there was a change earlier in the year, again, due to Andy's retirement at the end of last year. The first thing we did when that occurred is we went to the shareholder direction to look at the steps for replacing that position. And the current shareholder direction states in there that one of the directors will be the CAO of the township. And so that one was very seamless. Dan was right away, right off the hop, he was appointed as director there. And it kind of got us thinking, just for stability purposes, it would be advantageous to include in the shareholder direction that by title, the mayor and the president of Central Wellington Hydro will be directors of the energy company. That would, again, it would just give some stability. Staffing changes happen. There's an election on the horizon. It would make things more seamless. I might win the lottery tomorrow. I mean, we don't know. So it would just make things more seamless if there is an unexpected change. And things are very transparent with Central Wellington Energy and the township. And it would just remove any unnecessary work. So that is the only change there that is part of the agenda. The officers of the corporation, again, Doug Sherwood is completely retiring from everything. I have been appointed as president of the Central Wellington Energy Central Wellington Energy Company. And now getting into the bulk of the presentation, it'll be on Central Wellington Hydro, of course. Last year was a busy year. We were doing a lot of work in preparation for submitting a cost of service application, a rate rebasing application to the Ontario Energy Board. We were scheduled to submit that in May of this year. And so we started off with revising our business plan. Our business plan is a 5-year plan. It coincides with that rate rebasing cost of service application that I mentioned that is submitted to the Ontario Energy Board. And so we started off with strategic sessions with a regulatory expert that met with our board and had some one-on-one conversations with the directors. And we updated our mission, vision, and value statements, and just made sure that everyone was on board with where we were wanting to head with our plans over the next 5 years. So that was a great start to the process. And then we had an engineering consultant come in and do a very detailed asset condition assessment on all of our assets in the field, right from very minor assets to our most expensive ones being the substations. And then that fed into a distribution system plan that we had to revise and update. There's 5-year historical figures in the distribution system plan, and then the forecasted 5 years out. It includes our operations and maintenance budgets, our capital investment plans. It's kind of the holy grail for what we do operationally for us, and we stick as close as we can to that. So on top of that, once all that was done, then we get into load forecast, and we ultimately get to what we believe our revenue requirement needs to be, and in turn, what potentially our rates need to be increased by to get to that revenue requirement. And we were happily surprised that once we got to that point, we were doing rate analysis. We were in a position that we don't need to raise our rates. So that was pretty exciting. It was great news. We do have the opportunity to increase rates on an annual basis through an IRM or an incremental rate mechanism. And what that allows us to do is we submit a very small application annually. It's very formulaic. It goes to the Energy Board, and we can raise our rates up to, I guess, close to inflation, but certainly not on par with inflation. So we do have that mechanism that we can use. But again, it was great that we didn't have to increase our rates and go through a rate rebasing. It's going to save us money not submitting the application. Being able to defer that for 2 years is going to allow us to basically work away at our plan and not spend a lot of resources with meeting with the OEB over the course of this year. So again, very exciting. None of that work was wasted, of course. All that detail that went into all these revised programs and reports, that's great work that really shines a light on every single thing we do. One of the most important things we do is part of all that work is our customer engagement. So part of the application is showing that we've engaged with our customers. We've demonstrated that we have informed them and educated them on what our plans are, and try and glean from that whether they're in agreement to that. So I'm actually going to ask Lisa to start a video. I'm not usually technically challenged, but last year when I tried to show this in the remote meeting, I think you saw my family on my home screen for about half of it. So we're going to kick it off now. It's only about a minute and a half long.
At Center Wellington Hydro, our mission is to provide safe, reliable, and efficient delivery of electricity within the township of Center Wellington, while being accountable to our shareholders, the citizens of Center Wellington. The electrical system in Ontario has many moving parts and takes tens of thousands of people to keep the lights on. So today, we would like to discuss how we fit into providing electricity for whatever your needs are. The process starts with generators that produce power in a variety of ways. Most of the electricity in Ontario is made from nuclear and hydropower, with other large-scale generation in the province including natural gas, wind, and solar. The electricity generated from these plants is then taken by the transmitters and delivered to local distribution companies like us. When we receive power from these transmitters, we deliver it to residential, commercial, and industrial customers that live, work, and play in our community. While it may seem straightforward, there are dozens of checks and balances along the way to ensure safety and quality. We work with organizations like the Ontario Energy Board to ensure rates are fair and governmental policies are followed, as well as the independent electricity system operator to manage and monitor the electricity flow throughout the province and ensure there is always supply for the demand. We hope this video has shed some light on where we sit in the Ontario electrical system. We will continue to work hard to provide reliable power for you and our community.
Thanks, Lisa. So yeah, that kind of kicked off our engagement last year. We needed to get that started so that we had lots of runway time to, again, engage with our customers, explain what we're up to, and then get some feedback from them. And through that process, we did a survey, and I have a few slides here. We won't spend too long on them. But the survey really, we just need to make sure that customers are in agreement, again, with what our investment plans are, and get any, and it's kind of open-ended. They were able to comment on whatever they wanted if they weren't part of the question. So right up front, we basically just asked our customers, are you satisfied with Center Wellington Hydro overall? And overwhelmingly, well over 90% of our customers are at least satisfied, and almost 70% very satisfied. So that was a great indication of, again, just overall, our customers are happy with us. And then we got into a little bit more of the weeds, and we asked them specifically if they agreed with our investment plans. And again, we provided them information right from our distribution system plan, and as well explained that our strategy is to maintain the reliability that we currently offer them at rates, current rates, or at least rates that follow inflation, but not higher than that. And again, you can see here that our customers agree with that strategy of an investment. And then we got a little bit more specific and asked customers, as far as rates go, it might sound crazy, but some customers might be happy with more outages if their hydro bill is less. So we asked them that, or conversely, some customers would be quite happy paying more for their hydro bill if for an accelerated investment plan, if the reliability could improve. So you can see there that the vast majority of customers, they kind of agree with our current strategy. They are happy with the levels of reliability, and I don't know if they're happy with what they pay for that, but at least they're on board with that. Everyone would like to see their bills go down, but I think this was a valuable exercise, and customers were really able to understand what our plans are. So It was, and same with our operations and maintenance. I think a lot of the customers that took the time to read through this, they understand why we're out there trimming trees, why we're out painting transformers, trying to extend the life of our assets out there and do that with a balanced approach. So our customers agreed with our maintenance expenditures as well. And then this question here, are you confident that Central Wellington Hydro will continue to make responsible decisions about the future of electricity infrastructure and capital investment in your community? And overwhelmingly, the answer was yes. And really what that shows us is that our customers trust us. So they trust us to the decisions that we are making with our system that they ultimately own and rely on and count on. That was a great indication to us that we're on the right course here. So the customer engagement was it was work for us. I'll be honest. We're in the business of operating and maintaining a distribution system, and we're not marketers. And a lot of this stuff is it can be confusing. But it was good to work through this process. I think there's a slide here in a couple more slides about the electricity bill. And again, it can be confusing. So this was a good process for educating and engaging with our customers. I'm just going to touch on our reliability. We always like to show these statistics. These actually, instead of just chalking this up against the whole province, I do have a slide with that. We thought we would get a little bit more granular and just show you how we compare to some utilities, our closest neighboring utilities, as well as utilities that would really be considered an apples-to-apples comparison, utilities upwards of 10,000 customers, which Central Wellington Hydro is, and then the 5 largest utilities. So as you can see there, Central Wellington Hydro customers, they have fewer interruptions in a year, and when they do have interruptions, the duration is much less than all of those utilities that I just mentioned, and you can see there. These graphs are against the province as a whole, and the one on the top is the average length of interruptions, and you can see we have a shorter duration of outage when they do occur, and especially when you look at it compared to HONI, which is Hydro One Networks Inc., that red line on the top. The bottom graph is the average number of times that a customer is interrupted, and similar graph there. Central Wellington Hydro customers enjoy far fewer interruptions in the course of a year than the provincial average. So reliability continues to be a real positive. The reason for the interruptions in 2021, the main reason was loss of supply. So what that means is the subtransmission feeders that come into Fergus and Laura from the Fergus Transformer Station on County Road 29. Those are Hydro One owned. That's the main reason for the bulk of our interruptions in a year. And we did experience some interruptions because of adverse weather, and then scheduled outages, which are the best outages to have. We plan outages, of course, for safety reasons and efficiency reasons. We can get a lot more done if the wires are de-energized, and we can go in there and get it done a lot quicker, so that saves money. There were a few outages due to defective equipment, but that's the smallest piece of pie there, so that's what we endeavor to do. So that's a positive graph there as well. As far as our rates are concerned, part of the work we did last year with all of our analysis that I talked about was cost allocation across our customer classes. So we want to make sure that we don't there isn't any subsidizing from one customer class to another. That's important, and we could determine that isn't occurring. So residential customers are paying their share, so to speak. Commercial and large industrial customers are kind of paying their share. And it's nice to see that across the board, with residential, small business, and larger commercial industrial customers. All of those customer classes are paying a lower delivery charge to Centre Wellington Hydro than what the provincial average is. So, again, getting a little bit more granular with our controllable costs. You can see there on the bar on the top, Centre Wellington Hydro's operating and maintenance administration costs per customer in a year. We're right in there with the average of the province, and a little bit lower than utilities our size. And then the lower bar is the total all-in cost. So that includes operations maintenance as well as all of our capital investments. So with that, each residential customer, again, they pay about the average in the province. And I will point out, though, with the all-in cost, the largest 5 utilities in the province have a higher per customer cost than what Centre Wellington Hydro does, and also the utilities up to 10,000 customers. So there is still a little bit of focus on bigger is better, but we keep pointing this out to the powers to be that the numbers don't indicate that. So we work hard at that, and it's a constant, but we actually enjoy pointing these numbers out, especially the reliability ones. So, as I mentioned, with our bill, it can be confusing, but we try and educate our customers on this. It's kind of similar to taxpayers when they get their tax bill. Not all the tax dollars go to the Township of Centre Wellington. It's the same with your electric bill. Not all of your dollars go to Centre Wellington Hydro. So we're a relatively small portion of it. We're 21% of the overall bill that we collect from the average residential customer. The bulk of it, of course, goes to generators, which is administered through the independent electricity system operator. And Hydro One, of course, they have the transmission system in the province that has to be paid for. And there's some regulatory and taxes in the bill, as well as the water and wastewater. We bill for the township for those services, of course. There's great synergies there. We bill at a reasonable rate, and we're happy for the business as well. So this, unfortunately, the hydro bill, it's very prescriptive. The regulator makes us print bills this way. So we don't have much flexibility with that. Our hands are kind of tied. But it is something that we work at explaining to our customers. So. And our scorecard for 2021, again, it looks great. It is report card season. We're getting A+s across the board. Our service quality and customer focus and safety, cost control, reliability, our financial numbers, everything there meets and exceeds the targets. So that's a great news story again. That will be coming out in the fall. And the only way that we're able to actually stay as competitive as we are with our reliability and our rates and everything we do for that matter is to collaborate. So you've heard me speak over the years of Cornerstone Hydroelectric Concepts, or short form, it's CHEC. It's 15 utilities in the province, so that represents 25% of the utilities, or 160,000 customers. It is, for the most part, smaller utilities, like-minded utilities, but it offers so much support to us. We have full-time staff in this association, and we can lean on them anytime, as well as other resources. Some of these infographics in the presentation actually came from CHEC. They crunched the numbers. They provided the graphics for us. So that's just one little minor example of some advantages we get from them. Communications, again, we're not necessarily in the marketing business, so they provide that support that we don't have in-house. So very It's been a great group to belong with over the years, as well as the Electricity Distributors Association, or the EDA for short. Most of the utilities in the province belong to the EDA, and they lobby down at Queen's Park for us. They advocate on our behalf. They keep us informed of where the ministry is planning on heading, and again, they talk on our behalf, and they try and really get in there before regulations are changed to try and kind of steer the bus, so to speak, and make sure that albeit a lot of great ideas, innovation and different things, but it is good to be in there at the start of it and make sure that we get a say in the matter. And the EDA does a great job of that for us. So we'll move along into the financials. Everyone has a copy of our audited financials, but just the highlights. Our total revenue last year was a little over $22 million. And as you know, though, the vast majority of that is just a pass-through cost that we bill our customers for, and then in turn pass it along to the ISO and the generators in the province. Excuse me. But our distribution revenue was $4 million. That's what we used to operate and run our business. And our net income was over $630,000. And the shareholder payment doesn't change as a general rule unless there's a special dividend. But the shareholder payment was $365,000 again this year. Our cash balance was strong, and the shareholder equity just keeps going up. So it's all good on the financial front there. But it's not all about the numbers. Centre Wellington Hydro is proud to be a part of this community. We feel we're a partner in this community, and we love getting behind charitable organizations, and we make a lot of donations to that throughout the year, as well as our community relations and assisting low-income customers. And we spend as much locally as we possibly can. So that, again, is something that we're proud of, to get behind our community and help with social advancement. And we take our environmental responsibilities serious as well. So last year, over the course of the year, we helped out by well over 200 what we would call in-kind labor hours to different community things. So again, it's not just about the dollars and cents of it. Some of the special projects I'd just like to highlight. We helped out with the Elora lawn bowling lighting upgrades, as well as the electrical servicing expansion at the Sportsplex. It was the Scottish Festival that really spearheaded that, but we worked closely with them and Parks and Rec, Pat and her team, and we were happy to plant over 200 trees last year in the Fergus Industrial Base. That was done through an e-billing campaign. We're trying to reduce the paper bills that go out and reduce our carbon footprint as well. So those were three great projects to get behind, and we have some more this year that I'll hopefully come to fruition, and we can report on them next year. As far as just wrapping it up, this summary here, we continue to have lots of good news, really. Our reliability is top notch. We're one of the top 5 utilities for the lowest outages in the province. Something to be proud of. And we continue to put safety first with no lost time accidents or public safety emergencies. And as you saw, our rates continue to be competitive, and that's our plan going forward, and our customers understand that. The community value that we bring, we believe that we're plugged into the community, and we support charities and love to get behind good causes. And the shareholder value, of course, we're profitable, and equity keeps increasing, and that trust that I talked about, it was really good to get that feedback from our customers. We feel that that's one of the things that we've had going for us. I mentioned earlier that some people still beat that drum that bigger is better. I don't know that the larger utilities have that trust factor, so I think that we can stand behind that. And I know it's the last on the list here, but our customers are number one, and we continue to exceed our customer satisfaction and service quality targets. So that's it in a nutshell. But I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much, Wayne, and that was an excellent update. Thanks for that, and we appreciate all of Central Wellington Hydro does for this community. It's very rare that a community our size has its own hydro, and we don't take it for granted. It's really excellent to see those numbers. I was especially intrigued by the trust number, because at a time when there's not a whole lot of trust for institutions out there right now, to get that kind of number that you got for Central Wellington Hydro, you should be doing seminars and talking to other political organizations about how you get that kind of trust, because that's unheard of. So that's great news. Any questions, comments from council? Councillor McCrae.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Through you to President Dyce. I guess an obvious question is, within our urban boundary, we actually have 2 hydro providers. How do we get all of the urban boundary onto the preferred hydro provider?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor McCrae. There isn't a short answer. The service areas of each local distribution company in the province are extremely well established. It's part of each utility's service license. So that service area and the boundaries are very detailed in every distributor's license, and it's spelled out in the distribution system code very clearly that we can only service customers if they're in our service territory, or if we go through a process called a service area amendment application and try and convince the regulator that a customer would be better served by Central Wellington Hydro. But that is on the fringes. Unfortunately, the customers, the existing customers within the township of Central Wellington Hydro that are not Central Wellington Hydro customers, we can't go and cherry pick them, so to speak. There has to be a willing seller and a willing buyer for a transaction like that to occur. And the other distributor in our township is not a willing seller. So it's a short answer, but not really short. I hope I answered your question.
I think that's a question that comes up every time, and we all want an answer to it.
Yeah.
Other Councillor McElwain.
Thanks, Mayor. Wayne, I expect this is an OEB question, but the Grenwood subdivision has got a lot of net zero homes going in, and from what I have recently been told and asked is those homes earn energy credits throughout the year, but if they don't use them by the end of the year, they lose them all. Is that right? And is it something that you have any input into, or how does that work exactly?
Thanks for the question, Councillor McElwain. It is a great program. So the net metering program, it allows a customer to install photovoltaic or solar generator on their roof up to 10 kilowatts. And the principle of it is they will use the generation that they're generating. And if there is a credit, so if they don't use all that they generate in 1 month, there will be a credit. And we track that credit. And as you say, if they don't use those credits after 12 months, then they are dropped off. So we're actually in conversations with the OEB on this right now. It's like a lot of regulations, they can be interpreted a different way, or many different ways. And what we would like to see, though, is that those credits, rather than being the whole block, the last 12-month block of credits being dropped off so that a customer can't realize the savings, that it would be a rolling 12 months. So the 13th month would drop off, but they would still maintain the credits going back 12 months always. It is important when you install a system like this to try and size it appropriately for what your load is. There isn't any advantage to a homeowner to install a 10 kilowatt system if they are not large electric users, because they will not be paid for the generation similar to what the microfit connection allowed for. This is solely net, so it's to offset your use. So it's important to size these installations correctly. But yeah, it is, there is some frustration out there by customers that have installed these systems, and they're realizing now that they won't be able to take advantage of the credits. But again, we are in conversation with other utilities. We're not the only utility that has found this. So we have brought this up with the OEB, and we're going to be working through that. So.
Yeah, follow on, Councillor McLean?
Thanks. And you think the chances are reasonably good that the OEB will change the way they're doing things?
In all honesty, it is kind of hard to say. I think that net installations, there's a desire to promote them. So the regulator and the ISO and the other entities, and utilities included, we want to promote net installations, and so along that line of thinking, I think that there is a good chance. I know that they've changed the rules, and it's going to come into effect next month, where third parties will be allowed to own net installations on people's roofs. So a homeowner won't have to put out any capital up front, to install these. They'll come up with an agreement with an installer. So the board is continually revising these things. So there is a chance. Yeah.
Councillor Kitchus?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Wayne, for a great presentation and for especially the customer service feedback. I've always thought that was a great part of the Center Wellington Hydro program, and I think that the municipality could learn a lot from that. And I'm hoping that in the future, because there's the beginning of recording customer service, that'll happen. But I have a question, because we're building a new industrial park. Will there be a incentive for, and hopefully there'll be some industry there that will be a user of power. I'm just wondering if there's any programs for them to get to subsidize any power generation for them.
It is a good question, Councillor Kitchus, and thank you for your comments as well. Not as far as subsidies, although the net meter program isn't only for residential customers, it's also for commercial and industrial customers. The larger you get, so if you're on a larger scale of a net metered installation, there are more technical requirements, but depending on the size, it's always more efficient to install something when you're building new than it is to retrofit. So it would be the ideal for industry or commercial people that are planning on building in there. It'd be the ideal time for them to install a net metered installation, and we're hopeful that purchasers will do that. So,
Follow on, Councillor Kitchus?
Thank you, Mayor. Are you going to be working with our economic development to make that proposal for new with the township in terms of using that incentive for power?
Yeah, it's a good follow-up question. I've been working with Brett on the new business park, and we're currently working through a process to to hopefully be able to service those customers from Center Wellington Hydro, and when on the initial conversation with potential new customers, we always point to our website and make sure that they know anything that's available to them and the programs. And again, with the net metering program, that's probably the one that would be most intriguing to the customers for sure.
Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Wayne, for a very interesting presentation. Wayne, I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what you see in terms of the brave new world of electric vehicles. How do you see that playing out? Charging stations, the infrastructure needed. Where are we going with this, Wayne? How do you see that playing out?
Good question, Councillor Foster. And I actually, I think I forgot to mention at the start that Bob's a director of Center Wellington Hydro, so he's got some insider knowledge of this stuff, so to speak. We've been talking a little bit about the plans that the government has for electrification in the province, and they are big plans, and EVs is probably the biggest part of that, at least in the near future. So there are subsidies and grants out there for EV chargers, as well as the government. You've probably heard in the news that they are trying to attract EV manufacturing in the province, as well as battery manufacturing. So it is a priority of the provincial governments, and utilities will play a big role in that. Our distribution systems have to be able to accommodate the load. If it's implemented, the way that it's expected to be implemented, ideally, EV users are charging up at night. They'll have the ability to smart charge, and the cars will basically know when the rates are the cheapest, when it's the optimal time to charge, when the rest of the loads in your home aren't being used, and so there are some smarts behind it. So that's the type of innovation that we're staying on top of. As you know, we have some EV chargers in Elora and Fergus, so we're already making sure that we're involved with this and have a good understanding of where things are going, and that we're well positioned to take advantage if the opportunity is there. So, yeah.
Following Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor. Wayne, from the point of view of a citizen, if someone's thinking of getting an electric vehicle, what advice do you have for them, and what do they need to do to install, if you will, charging systems in their homes?
Great follow-up question. I think, like anything, I think people just need to educate themselves, and there is a lot of literature out there on EVs, pros and cons, but I think they need to educate themselves and understand what vehicles would be best suited for them, where they live in the province, and what they're going to be doing with it every day. And they should also understand that it's not just the cost of the vehicle up front. They will have to install a charger at their home. If they want to charge in a kind of a driver-friendly time frame, you can always plug it in just to an outlet, but that takes a lot of time. But there are associated costs, yeah.
Anything else from Councillor? Councillor Dunsmore?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for the presentation, Wayne. I just want to clarify the Center Wellington Business Park. You haven't got approval yet to be the supplier there. You're working through that with the Ontario Energy Board?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else from Council? Okay, thanks again, Wayne. Thanks, Heather, and Michael for being here as well. Make sure that you give our thanks to the board as well, Councillor Foster and Michael, for the time that they put in providing leadership and governance to this board. We're proud of our hydro, and thanks for coming and giving us such a great presentation.
Thank you.
Have a recommendation here that the Council of the Township of Center Wellington adopt the shareholder direction for Center Wellington Energy Inc. as outlined in the Council agenda dated June 27th, 2022. And the Council received the 2021 annual report and approved audited financial statements for Center Wellington Hydro, Center Wellington Energy Innovations, and Center Wellington Energy for information. Moved by Councillor Foster, second by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, Mayor's County Council report. I have a few things that I won't be too long here. I have a few things I wanted to talk about that were noteworthy in the county over the past month and a bit. May 19th, Wellington County celebrated the expansion of our Riverstown landfill site in Wellington North. Back in 2001, the county had assumed responsibility for municipally owned landfill sites, and the phase 1 of our Riverstown landfill site is expected to reach its capacity this year. So the new expansion is estimated to meet the county's waste disposal needs for another 24 years. So with that, we're in much better shape than many municipalities across the province who have limited or no landfill capacity and are having to truck their waste to other locations. I think we all see those trucks going down the 401. In Wellington County, we've been able to manage our own waste. We've been proactive with the Green Bin Organic Program. It's expected to extend the life of our landfill site at Riverstown by an additional 5 years. So that's good news. Moving to June 23rd, we had a grand opening between the county and Wellington Catholic District School Board for a new Rockwood Child Care Center and early on child and family center. So it's an 8,300 square foot facility that was made possible from through funding from the government of Ontario. It provides spaces for 49 children under the age of 4. So next up for the county is to try to do another similar center for Mapleton, who doesn't have any official childcare right now, and another one for Center Wellington. So that's next on the agenda for the county when it comes to child care and early on child and family centers. And then this Wednesday, coming up at 2 p.m., we're celebrating the planting of a 3 millionth tree from the county's Green Legacy program. The tree is going to be planted right here in Center Wellington at the Wellington Place campus, right on the grounds of the county museum. So 2 o'clock, feel free to come out and join that milestone event. That's it from a county perspective. Looking forward to our Canada Day festivities on Friday. After 2 years of COVID, we're back live and in person, and it's going to be exciting celebrating the best country in the world together. So in Elora, volunteer firefighters pancake breakfast right here, starting bright and early at 7 to goes till about 11. Followed by that, there's the Dominion Day Parade at 11. So for councillors who want to ride in the fire trucks, you just have to meet at the Elora Community Center at 10:45. Got that information from the chief today. Also, the Soapbox Derby is back, sponsored by Big Brothers Big Sisters here at between 8 to 11. So that's good news. And of course, free hot dogs at Bissell Park. Great to bring that tradition back after a couple years off. Live music, kids' activities here in Elora, and of course the duck race at 1:30. Then moving over to Fergus for the afternoon. Festivities start at 4 o'clock. Kids' fashion show, family bingo, magician show, live DJ at 8, and it's all capped off by fireworks at 9:30. So we have a lot to do on Friday, celebrating Canada Day, Dominion Day together. That's it for me. Moving on to Councillor Committee updates. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor. We've had a detailed report from Center Wellington Hydro today. I can't add much more other than I feel very good about our community's utility. We're well served, and it's a well-run operation. Center Wellington seniors, ongoing activities. One thing, if any seniors who are members may be interested in serving on the board in a future year, they should make themselves known. Pat, maybe you can help me out here. There's the upcoming year in 2023, there's a need for new members, quite frankly, to serve on the seniors committee. But there's ongoing activities in the post-COVID world, hopefully, and not much more I can add.
Councillor Dunsmore?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor. The hospital board met, they had their annual AGM, and, excuse me, we were updated on staffing needs and the work they continue to do to remain diligent through COVID. And so things are getting a little bit better there, but, you know, staff are really being pushed. But, and so the healthcare staff in this community, I think, deserve a big round of applause and a big pat on the back for everything they've done for the last 2 years. The Economic Development Committee met, and we worked through some of the website issues that they had in the economic development pages, and I thought that was a really great meeting, and I want to commend staff for the work that they did on that. That is a much improved website now. In addition, the Agri Committee, the subcommittee that meets for agricultural zoning, they've had a few meetings, and that report goes to a public meeting, I believe, which is Wednesday. So that's on all our agendas. The business park signs are up. I'd encourage anybody to drive out to the business park and see those signs. So they're up now so that people know that the lots are for sale, and hopefully once we get through the appraisal and the rest of it, we can start selling those lots. And the CSAC committee did not meet in June, and they will meet in July.
Councillor McElwain?
Thanks, Mayor. Heritage Committee met earlier this month, but the two topics that were covered that meeting were already covered in our committee of the whole last week, so I don't need to go into them today.
Councillor Kitchis?
Thank you, Mayor. Safe Communities met. This is a final meeting. They have the summer off, and there was just updates on future elections in the fall.
Councillor Van Leeuwen?
Thanks, Mayor. So Economic Development, Councillor Dunsmore already updated us on. Always excited about that business park getting traction. And our Financial Incentives Subcommittee, we meet tomorrow morning.
Councillor McCray?
Thank you, Mayor Linton, through you. GRCA, the board at its June 24th general membership meeting approved a series of resolutions, including inventory of programs and services update to be sent to all Grand River watershed municipalities and posted on the GRCA website. Progress Report 1 to be circulated to all Grand River watershed municipalities as part of the new Ontario Regulation 68721, updating them on our transition plan efforts. Financial summary, foundation member appointments, Township of Wilmot maintenance agreement, Township of Woolwich maintenance agreement, Conestoga Dam Bridge Deck Rehabilitation Tender Award, and property disposition to the City of Guelph. The board received the following reports as information: cash and investment status and current watershed conditions. The board also received correspondence from the Canadian Coalition for Invasive Plant Regulation regarding a support request. They're seeking Canada-wide regulation of horticulture and pet aquarium industry's use of invasive plants. QMS committee, due to another commitment, I did not attend the June 14th meeting, but provided questions for discussion during the session. Following the June 14th meeting, staff provide copies of the second quarter management review reports to the council. The reports detail the performance of both the water and wastewater systems. Healthy growth, there was no monthly meeting.
Great, thanks, councillors, for those updates. Moving on to item 7 on our agenda, Committee of the Whole report from June 20th, 2022. I have a recommendation there. The Council of the Township of Centre Wellington approved the report from the Committee of the Whole dated June 20th, 2022 as circulated. Can I get a move for that? Councillor McElwain, second by Councillor Dunsmore. Any comments, questions? All in favor? And that is carried. We have no delegations today. Get into our consideration of reports. The Bailey Drainage Works. maintenance and repair. Is there anything that you want to highlight on that, Carrie?
Through you, Mayor Linton, no, it's pretty self-explanatory. I think council's aware of its responsibilities under the Drainage Act for maintenance and repairs.
Okay, I will read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Center Wellington, in accordance with Section 74 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990, CD17, approves the cost of the maintenance and repair works to the Bailey Drain located at the top end of A Drain in W. Part Lot 25 and the necessary portions of the C Drain as recommended by the Drainage Superintendent at an estimated cost of $4,500. Moved by Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor Van Leeuwen. Any comments or questions? Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions about this matter. I guess I'd like to understand, Mayor, when the Drainage Act applies and when it does not apply. So I'm asking, I guess, Adam, as author of the report, can you help me understand if, in this particular case, the Drainage Act applies? Does the Drainage Act apply to all drainage matters within the township? Adam?
I think I'll ask, this is Carrie's report, so I'll ask our clerk first, and if she
Okay.
wants Adam's help, she can get it.
Yes, through you, Mayor Linton. This is under Section 74 of the Drainage Act. It applies to municipal drains. This is a municipal drain. The municipality, once the municipal drain is established, has a responsibility under that section for all repairs and maintenance to that drain. The costs are recovered through the assessment that's done by bylaw to everyone that has a benefit in the watershed.
Anything to add from staff? Okay, Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess what I'm wondering, Carrie, is if there are municipal drains, does the Drainage Act apply to all municipal drains within the township?
Yes.
Okay. Can you, would it also apply in a case such as Victoria Street, which is also a municipal drain? The Drainage Act?
I'm not aware, that would perhaps be for Colin. I don't know whether that's a municipal drain or not. I'd have to refer to our drainage map.
Colin?
Colin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'd have to, through Mayor Linton, I'd have to look at our mapping to see if that's categorized as a municipal drain. That's the one that comes from St. David Street.
Yeah, we dealt with it just last meeting. So I'm just wondering, is it a municipal drain, and does the Drainage Act apply?
That's something we'll have to look into and get back to you, Councillor Foster.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from council on this? I gotta move it a second, right?
Yes, you do.
Okay. All in favor? And that's carried. Moving on to Elora Green Space Lease Renewal Agreement.
Just give Councillor McCray a minute to fix it.
Oh, right, yeah,
Just
yeah,
declare it.
thanks. Quickly. And I'm going to turn it over to our CEO for a description of this item on our agenda.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. This report relates to the green space located at 25 West Mill Street in Elora. We are currently in a 5-year lease with Suncor Energy Products Partnership, which expires at the end of this year. So the report requests that the mayor and clerk be able to execute a renewal of that lease. Rather than a 5-year renewal, we're looking for a 10-year term in this case. Same conditions apply as to the existing lease, which includes a 120-day notice of termination, and that Suncor does not have to pay property taxes on the property, which is estimated at about $9,000 a year.
Great, thanks for that, Dan. Any questions from council on this one? Councillor Dunsmore?
Yeah, so Dan, just for clarification, the only cost to us is the $9,000 in tax relief?
Through Mayor Linton, it's the $9,000 plus any costs of maintaining the property.
Maintenance. Okay, great.
Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Dan. I'm very much in favor of this item, and I was just wondering, Dan, if since you're negotiating a renewal on this lease, I'm wondering, Dan, if we could potentially investigate with Suncor the feasibility of a similar agreement on St. David Street North, the former FINA station in Fergus. So I guess I'm just wondering if I might propose a friendly amendment that we would just add something like after West Mill Street, Elora, and initiate discussions on the feasibility of a similar agreement on the former FINA station in Fergus on St. David Street. Is that something we could consider, Dan, since you're going to be reaching out to Suncor in any case?
So I'll let Dan respond to that as far as, because I think he's had that discussion and the thought would go out there, but that isn't a friendly amendment, so I won't add that to a friendly amendment because that takes us in another direction. But I'll let Dan respond to that.
Thank you, and through Mayor Linton, it is something that staff had informal discussions on in the past, and it's something we can investigate sort of independently of this discussion.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor McElwain?
Thanks, Mayor. At the moment, we don't have a first right of a refusal with the Suncor, with the green space. Is that something that we're interested in talking about yet with Suncor? I still have the list of citizens who spent a lot of money on that, and Sean spent a whole summer designing it and then implementing it. Hate to lose it because we didn't do the due diligence ahead of time.
Through Mayor Linton, the first right of refusal did come up during negotiations. I had brought it up. Suncor is not in a position to put a first right of refusal into the lease agreement, but they did say that they're not looking to sell anytime soon. So I think this is as good as an agreement as we can ask for at this point in time.
Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor. And for clarity's sake, Dan, would that first right of refusal, the way the lease reads to me, that would be primarily in the event that perhaps they received a ministry order to do something in terms of the environmental part of the thing. If indeed they had to comply with something, then they would potentially terminate the lease because they're basically forced to. Would I be correct in my interpretation? It's all about the environment?
Through Mayor Linton, the first right of refusal is more broad than that. Just in a situation where Suncor wanted to sell the property, a first right of refusal would give the township a first shot at purchasing the property. It could be for any reason.
Okay, I'm going to read the recommendation of the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington authorizes the Mayor and Clerk to execute a renewal of the lease agreement between Suncor Energy Products Partnership and the Township for the green space located at 25 West Mill Street, Elora. Okay, get moved for that. Councillor McElwain, seconded by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? And that is carried. And we'll just wait a second, get Councillor McCrae back.
Oh, do you have your cheat sheet?
Yeah. That's your. Okay, so going on to section 10, we have a list of bylaws and a new one to be added as well. So I'll go through those right now. Bylaw 2022-49, a bylaw to establish a joint municipal election compliance audit committee. 2022-50, a bylaw to appoint members to the Wellington County Joint Municipal Election Compliant Audit Committee, and to repeal bylaw 2018-49. 2022-51, a bylaw to authorize a fundraising activity in the form of soliciting by a toll booth on the Tower Street Bridge in Fergus. 2022-52, a bylaw to regulate speed and repeal bylaws 00-21, 00-36, 2002-89, 2003-106, 2004-009, 2004-031, 2005-047, 2008-070, 2009-011, 2011-004, and former West Garifraxa bylaws 23-93, 23-98, and 25-1995. And bylaw 2022-53, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a lease agreement between the corporation of the Township of Center Wellington and Suncor Energy Products Partnership, the Allure Green Space.
Excuse me, Mayor Linden, could we vote on 2022-53 separately?
Yes, we can. Yeah, thanks for that. I should have remembered since it just happened, but sorry about that. 2022-54, a bylaw resulting from a closed session, June 20th, 2022. Oh, no. I'll read that differently. 2022-54, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a shared services agreement between the corporation of the Township of Center Wellington and the corporation of the Township of Puslinch. Okay, so we'll split those into two. A recommendation that bylaws 2022-49 through 2022-52 and 2022-54 be read a first, second, and third time and passed and signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed. Moved by Councillor Foster, second by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? And that bylaw 2022-53, be read a first, second, and third time and passed and signed by the mayor and clerk and the corporate seal affixed. Moved by Councillor McElwain, seconded by Councillor Van Leeuwen. All in favor? And that's carried. No notices of motion. Or is there? No. Motions where notice has been given. None. Confirmatory bylaw. Recommendation of bylaws 2022-55 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held June 27, 2022 be introduced a first, second, and third time and passed in open council. Moved by Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor McCray. All in favor? Motion to adjourn. Councillor Kittrus, seconded by Councillor McElwain. All in favor? And we are adjourned. Have a good rest of the afternoon. Thanks, everyone.